Hi, today I'm going to make a video on verse 6 of the Tao De Ching, and if you want to hear my previous videos on the last 5 verses, there's a link in the bio on YouTube to the Tao De Ching playlist. So verse 6 says, "The spirit that never dies is called the mysterious feminine. Although she becomes the whole universe, her immaculate purity is never lost. Although she assumes countless forms, her true identity remains intact. The gateway to the mysterious female is called the root of creation. Listen to her voice. Hear it echo through creation without fail. Without fail, she reveals her presence. Without fail, she brings us to our own perfection. Although it is invisible, it endures. It will never end." So this is out of Wayne Dyer's translation of the Tao De Ching. It starts by saying that this mysterious spirit, this part of the mystery, although she becomes the whole universe, her immaculate purity is never lost. Although she assumes countless forms, her true identity remains intact. So what it is saying is that this mother, this feminine energy, this divine principle of the universe, then manifests itself into all of us and into all of life, while at the same time maintaining its purity and its untarnished identity. So what that means is that although we are manifesting ourselves as the entire universe, there's a part of us that is still apart from this. There's a part of us that is a soul and that is pure and does not get caught in the universe. And then there's the part of the self, the part of us that wears the masks and that becomes everything else. And just like in the famous World War II General Patton's poem where he talks about himself going through multiple lifetimes, and he says, "Many faces and many battles it was, but always me." So we can look at everything in this world the same way, that we have many faces, many forms we manifest in, but always us. Always the same real internal spirit that is playing in this role as all these different things. And that's what quantum physics is showing us today too in science, is that there's really only one thing. There's really only one mass of energy playing around. It's just we've set it up so well on this level, we've duped ourselves and illusioned ourselves so well, and the game is set up so immaculately that it seems like there's all these different entities when it's not really the case. And it's so elusive and so deceitful, and even when you understand it intellectually, since most of us don't have that actual experience of that's gained through meditation or other spiritual practices, we forget that very quickly. So we could sit here right now and listen to a video like this and be like, wow, that makes sense. Because if you think back to the Big Bang, if you think of creation springing out of a little dot into this entire universe, of course it's coming from the same thing, and of course it's the same thing. But holding that perspective in our day-to-day life is super difficult, because what would that mean to hold that perspective? That would mean you'd probably take things a lot less seriously, you'd probably be a lot more at ease, you'd probably be a lot less controlling. But we think these things and then we understand that intellectually and it makes sense, we feel a lot of peace. But since the illusion's so strong and since we're so caught in our ego, a moment later we'll be right back in it. So you could sit down and meditate or pray or read a verse before you start your day, and you think, wow, I'm gonna live this day real peacefully, real serene. And as soon as you pull out of your driveway, your girlfriend says something to you, or you run into somebody in traffic and they honk their horn at you, and you get caught right back into thinking it's real. And then you sort of remember later, that night when you go back to your reading, or you remember some other time, and you kind of laugh about it because you remember how you got caught in it. And it's that same kind of laughter that people will give you if you laugh about something bad that happened to you, or you laugh about something real serious that people don't think you should laugh about. That's that mother part of you, that's that God part of you laughing that isn't caught in it. When you talk about you had a breakup, or you just lost a ton of money on this bad deal, or you got screwed over, or you got fired, and part of you is really angry and caught and scared. But then like that real part of you inside is kind of laughing because it knows it's not that serious. So it's interesting to hold these two perspectives. And it says her immaculate purity is never lost. So she becomes us becomes the whole universe, and it becomes that conscious ego us, because there is a different self that we really are that's very hard to touch, and that is our real nature. But we get born, and then we learn all these different, we develop our personality traits that we carry with us from previous lifetimes. We learn them from what our parents teach us, from what everyone gives us this image as a little kid. We're this pure spiritual entity that takes birth, but everybody sees us as a little baby, and they categorize us, and we start to develop this ego and the self of who we are. And it seems so real. It's so hard for me to see beyond it. But really, it's just a structure of thoughts that I learned and past experiences that I accumulated. And it has a lot to do, I've realized, with a really strong attachment to my personal history. Like a really strong attachment to this Alex's future and past. And, when we were a little baby, we didn't have the desire for money or power or acquisitions, but we learned all that. And we had those seeds inside of us, our karmic seeds, that as they started to come forward, it was like, wow, now I want this, now I care about this. And we build this whole person that we think we are that fits in the game. And that's why I title my channel after Ramdas's work, Becoming Nobody, because first we become somebody, and later as we return to God, we become nobody, because we reach back into that essence behind it, behind all the stuff that we're always thinking, behind the stuff that we're doing. And it's easy. It's easiest, first of all, to see that we're not the body, because you could think about, if you have a pain in your foot, you can kind of realize, is the foot me? People are paraplegics, they have their legs cut off, but you wouldn't say their legs don't work, or their legs are cut off, and you wouldn't say that they're any less of, they still feel themselves to be the same person. They don't feel themselves to be that their soul's only half now. So body, it's easier to identify that we're not the body than to realize that we're not the mind. And you could feel that, I'm going to have a heart attack, my heart isn't good, or my fingers, but they're not you. So it's right to call them mine, because you're in the container, but you're not the container. It's a lot harder to realize that we're not the mind, the thinking process. Not that we're not the thoughts. That's a little easier to get to, that I'm not each thought, that I'm not each feeling, but that I'm not the dominant thought of my actual self, that there's nobody in there thinking. Because that's what I feel, that there's an Alex in here thinking each thought, that all these things are happening to, that all these feelings are happening to. But really it's just a soul inside, and there's these mind processes going on. So we identify fully with the mind and who we think we are, and then that leads to, we get really scared, because we don't want to die, because then that's going to lose who I think I am. And if you look at it realistically, it's a pretty short trip from birth to, you first realize things are going on when you're a little older, you learn a little more about life, and to 80 years, to 60 years, to maybe 100 years, it's a short trip from birth to death. So, and then you lose the mind, you lose the personality in the body. So if you think you're the container, then you're going to freak out. And so it goes on to say, the gateway to the mysterious female is called the root of creation. Listen to her voice, hear it echo through creation. Without fail, she reveals her presence. Without fail, she brings us to our own perfection. Although it's invisible, it endures. It will never end. So bringing us to our own perfection, what that means, and you almost have to look at it through a process of lifetimes, or through a process of a soul living different births or on different planes of reality. Because if you look at it at one lifetime, it doesn't make sense how we're all brought to perfection. Because you see a lot of people who die without being brought to perfection. A lot of kids that die as babies, a lot of animals that get stepped on, whatever, a lot of things that die in seeming states that don't seem like perfection. But if you can look at it outside of this one lifetime view, you can see that we really are all on a journey towards perfection. So it's sort of this mother, this energy coming into the universe and taking on all these masks. It's kind of like a dream. When you have a dream, you're your character and you see all the other characters, but you know when you wake up from the dream, that really it was just you dreaming. You were playing your own role, and you were playing all the other characters too. It just seemed like you were you. Well, that's how this one is too. You're all the characters and all the roles, but you're just looking at it from the vantage point of one role. And even as a individual soul, you're moving through this existence and other existences from the role of a single one, but really you're the whole thing. It's just part of the game. It's interesting, so that's why it's set up that way. But the thing that it's saying in there, that by trusting in the Tao, by trusting in the way of things, by the movement of nature, not just things outside, but like we're all a part of nature. The mother, nature, brings us, the Tao brings us all to perfection in time. So we can't help but go back to that source. We can't help but wake up. There's nothing you can do to slow it down. There's nothing you can really do to speed it up. You can do spiritual practices that seem to speed it up, but even the act of doing those practices is part of the awakening process that you can't stop. So ultimately there is not too much to worry about, because the time will come when you will see the perfection of all things. But as part of the fun of the game and part of the interestingness of it is where we're sitting at right now, we don't see that. So we think like, when bad things happen to me, that's bad. We think that death's bad. We think that whatever doesn't go our way is bad. We think things that happen to us when we're younger are bad. But by holding the mystery, like it talks about in there, by looking at the mystery, we can start to realize that there is more than just the physical plane, and there's more going on than I think there is. I don't understand how it's all supposed to be, or how it's all turns out. I don't know why death is built into the system. I don't know why so much suffering and greed is built into the system. So I'm trying to judge it with my analytical mind from this limited perspective of why things should happen and why things shouldn't happen. But really, I don't know the true reason for them going on. So the main focus of the Tao, and this is verse 6, like I said, there's 62 verses, so it'll take me a long time to go through all of them. But the underlying inherent principle of the Tao, which could be synonymous with God, but not God in like a patriarchal sense or like a ruler sense, but as like the flow of the universe, as the flow of things, is living in harmony with the Tao is like a way to release vast amounts of our creative energy. But to do that, we do have to look deeper within and be able to reach a part of ourselves that's beyond the thinking process. And really, we do have to sit. That's why people always emphasize silence and quietness, because otherwise you go through the day after day, month after month, year after year, lifetime after lifetime, thinking that you're the container, thinking that you're the rent a body and you're the rent a mind, as Ram Dass would say, and you don't ever get a chance to wake up to your true nature. So by getting quiet and by reaching inward, we kind of just see that there's a different part too, and that this part's equally real and equally illusion, but so is the rest of it, that there's other planes of reality going on. So as we kind of hold those simultaneously, at least it gives us a little bit of a perspective so we can act and hopefully help ourselves and help others without getting so caught in the suffering. Because every time I get like a little bit more free, I could help free other people a little bit more. When I'm totally caught in my extreme selfishness and extreme self-centered delusion, and I'm caught in my fear, and I'm caught in my anxiety, and I'm caught in all that, I offer very little benefit to myself, very little benefit to others. And now here's a break with a message from our sponsors. Are you tired of paying too much to H&R Block or others to prepare your tax return? Are you finally done pulling your hairs out over TurboTax or worrying about whether you completed your Form 1040 correctly? Well, worry no longer. With Momcilovic Tax and Accounting, you're in great hands. With over 35 years of experience and over 250 clients to show for, CPA Mile Momcilovic is the accountant you can trust. Straightforward, inexpensive, professional. All it takes is 3 easy steps. Step 1. Email or text us for more information. Step 2, receive an invite email to load your data. Step 3, review and sign your returns electronically in a safe and secure way. The best part about it, he can do your taxes and accounting no matter what state you're in. If you want a knowledgeable licensed expert, he's your guy. With tax returns starting at $125 for single filers and $150 for joint filers. You are guaranteed a fair price and excellent service. Stop the worrying and leave it up to the professional. Email Mile at info@momsilvicaccounting.com. Text him at 773-578-0996 or go to momsilvicaccounting.com. Website link and contact information can be found in the description below. To learn more, follow Mom Silvic Tax and Accounting on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. Also, if you have any tax or accounting related questions, feel free to contact Mile free of charge. Start your journey of a stress-free tax season today.